Of all the mitzvahs we discussed so far, we spoke about Shabbos, we spoke about Torah. I like to talk about the Jewish calendar, especially as we're approaching Purim and Pesach. The Jewish calendar and festivals. Lutzato and Derech Hashem tells us that a festival is not a matter of commemorating the past as a matter of sentiment. We live today, we don't live yesterday. As in the case of everything else in Jewish ritual, we're dealing with metaphysical realities. You know, it's not a matter of remembering the past, but these are special times in the year where we can access spiritual forces, I guess we'll call it that. And the way it works is as follows. We understand that time is a creation. The infinity is outside of time. God created time. The Vilna Gaon claims that that is the first word in the Torah. Bereshis, in the beginning, that signifies time. That was the first creation. In the Kabbalah, it's a very interesting thing. We're taught that there was a certain stage where God created time. Meaning we understand that the creation of the earth was preceded by creation of all the different spheres. And there was a certain point where time was created and existence took on a whole different level of finiteness. Yeah.
Was this was, I guess, when you say the different spheres, you mean like there's like the layers of reality?
They are different layers of reality. We refer to them as the different worlds, the lowest of which is our world.
Is there a place that goes over the different, like what the levels are? And
Is Bira as a lot, those ones?
Excuse me? Habia. Yeah. And there's basic stuff in Kabbalah. Very basic stuff. So, time is a creation. In the case of everything else God created, He created it in a finite way. What I mean is, He created finite matter. He created finite energy. How much time did He create? So God created time in increments of a year, with the ability to sort of perpetuate itself without format. Means every year is another layer of that same outline called a year.
I know we talk about the difference between like the God year and the human year.
Here we're talking about the human year. The human year.
Okay.
Talking about the human year. For every day of the year, there's another spiritual quality that was created, and that's available on that day. On certain days, the spiritual powers that are available are so much greater than any other day. How do we know what they are? When throughout the course of history, something colossal happened, that was God's way of showing that that power was always available in that day. So for example, we celebrate Rosh Hashanah. That was the day man was created. Adam was created that day. That is the day that human life is available. Good. We studied before Rosh Hashanah just how to define human life. What is human life? What is this life that we're asking for in Rosh Hashanah? On Pesach, obviously the forces of freedom, except that you have to very clearly define what freedom is to appreciate it. How do you access those forces? The mitzvah of the day is the way you access it. So the Torah teaches us that on the 15th of Nisan, you speak about the Exodus, you eat matzah, you access freedom. It's real. You're accessing freedom. Now, what's really special is that not only is this true for the Torah festivals, but Hanukkah and Purim, which are rabbinical, they too are accessing powers that were up there that were only revealed later. But it's not that they happened later, they were revealed later. There's something very interesting. The Torah teaches us that when the angels came to Sodom before they destroyed it, they came to Lot. And the pasuk says, "Umatzot afa," he baked them matzah. Why did Lot bake them matzah? The oral law has taught us because it was Pesach. 1 second. The Jews had not gone down to Egypt yet. There was no Exodus. What is he commemorating? What is he commemorating? The answer is, as a student of Avraham Avinu, Avraham taught him all the secrets, and he told him that on the 15th of Nisan, if you want freedom, if you want to access freedom, you eat matzah. Avraham Avinu was a prophet. He knew what was going to be. So he knew that that day was special.
Isn't the other half of that equation to talk about the Exodus from Egypt?
That was not available at that time, but the eating matzah was.
Okay.
Okay, so we got it. We're accessing freedom. That's on Pesach. What are we accessing on Purim? What are we accessing on Purim?
Seeing Hashem on the Monday.
Yeshua?
Can't remember everything at once.
Yeshua? Like salvation?
I mean, that happened lots of times, not just Purim.
No, I know, but
Well,
It's like seeing Hashem in the everyday.
that's really what it is. But more than that, in other words, the miracles in the way God runs the world. To see that, to connect to it, and to get more of that. As opposed to Hanukkah, which is the open miracles. And Hanukkah is a time that you're allowed, it's the only time of the year that you're allowed to pray for miracles. Any other time says you can't pray for miracles. What do you think you are? Hanukkah you can pray for miracles because that's the time you can access that power of miracle. Okay, so we got the principle. Yeah.
Is there anything special that you can daven for on Purim that you can't daven for anything?
Anything.
Anything?
You can daven for anything.
But that's similar to.
Not miracles. You daven for anything. Daven for anything you want.
But is that similar to the rest of the year, right?
but more on Purim any other time, because there we recognize how Hashem is never, even though He's hiding, is working for us behind the scenes. So you can ask her anything. And you should.
What about Shavuot? Is that the one of Torah?
Yeah.
And Sukkot?
Protection. Divine protection.
How is Rosh Hashanah, if the mitzvah is to blow a shofar, how is that getting the energy of creation?
Okay.
Is that,
I'll do this very quickly, but this really is what we study during Elul. This is the wrong time of year to discuss it, but since you mentioned it, we have to discuss it. How does human life differ than all other life?
free will.
Free will, and with it, responsibility. We are the only creatures that earn our existence, which was really God's purpose in creating, to give us the ability to give ourselves life, which is being like Him because He gives Himself life, and that's the greatest. Rosh Hashanah is therefore the festival of accountability. Blowing the shofar primarily is to wake us up to do truth. Which, you can blow a shofar to a cow, the cow will not do anything. The idea of the shofar is the Jew doing his introspection and seeing to it that he's really earning life. To recognize we're accountable. Blowing the shofar asks for judgment. When we blow the shofar, we're calling the heavenly courts to judge us. That's accepting the responsibility of being a human being. We celebrate responsibility in Rosh Hashanah. Okay, now comes this time of year, which is Purim Pesach. And they're related. In the Jewish calendar, and we have to talk about this, especially with Purim, it's very important, but we have to talk about this. In the world, there are two essential calendars, the Eastern calendar and the Western calendar. The Eastern calendar is lunar, the Western calendar is solar. So, how many days are there in a year? In the Eastern calendar, 365, because that's, the Earth. Excuse me?
Going around the sun.
Yeah. The revolution of the Earth around the sun takes 1 year. What's a month? There's no such thing as a solar month. The months are lunar. The rotation and revolution of the moon around the Earth takes 29 and a half days. That's a month. On the solar calendar, there are arbitrarily 12 months. Some months have 30, others have 31, others have 21. February was 28, unless it's leap year. And that's because the months are artificial. The year is for real, but the months are artificial. In the lunar calendar, the months are real. The year, though, is artificial. There's no lunar, the lunar year is 29 and a half days. There's nothing that happens after 12 months. So, for example, the Muslim holy month of Ramadan, what time of the year does that fall on?
Anytime.
Depends on the year, because every 12 months they call it another year. And 12 months don't really add up to 365 days. They run approximately 11 or 12 days short every year. And Ramadan will shift. This is true of all Eastern calendars. What's the Jewish calendar?
Hybrid.
The Jewish calendar is totally true. We have solar years and lunar months. How do we do that? The month goes by the moon. In fact, the month begins when the witnesses sight the moon. And by the way, that's true in the Islamic calendar too. Now that we don't have the Sanhedrin to accept the witnesses, we go by what they set up originally, which was based on their knowledge of the length, the rotation and revolution of the moon around the earth, which by the way is also phenomenal. The number we have is so accurate, and we did not have the technology to be able to measure it in those days. The Gemara says openly, Rabbi Gamliel says that he was taught this by his father going all the way back. In other words, we were taught by Moshe Rabbeinu how long the rotation revolution of the moon is. How about years? So we're told that the first month is the month in the spring, the month of Nisan. Therefore, how many months are there in a year? It depends. The first month has to be in the spring, which is solar. So in a year where the spring will be after 12 months, the year will have 12 months. In a year when the spring will be after 13 months, it'll be the 13th month.
How do we define the spring?
How do we define the spring? The solar calendar is divided into 4. The beginning of spring is that quarter of the year.
What, like, how do we as Jews tell that now it's
We
spring?
calculate it by dividing the year into 4 equal parts.
And the year is?
The solar year, that is. The solar year.
Okay.
And you can tell by the length of the day. So this year, for example, there are 12 months. Next year, there will be 13 months. And this year, as is, you see that they're a little behind. Tu B'Shvat, the almond trees are supposed to be in blossom. Didn't happen. We're a bit early this year. So Jewish calendar is a real calendar. It means the months are accurate, the years are accurate. By the way, how about the weeks? Where did the week come from?
So the creation of this. The creation of
There's absolutely no physical explanation for the concept of a week other than the Torah's description of creation.
Isn't there a thing that if you separate the days into like 5, it like fits perfectly in the English calendar? Instead of 7 days, if you have 5 days a week.
5 would be much better. 7 doesn't fit. 7 isn't one. And 7, I mean, it's not a good number to use. It doesn't fit into the week, into the months, the years. Very awkward. Who came up with the 7-day week? The Kuzari writes. The Kuzari writes that it was in the subconscious of all of mankind that the world was created in 6 days and Hashem rested on the 7th. He said historically there's no civilization that didn't have a 7-day week. There was an attempt to change it in Russia at one point. They wanted a 10-day week to get more work out of people. In the days of the Soviet Union, it didn't work. Okay, so our calendar is a real calendar. It's only because it's a real calendar that we can claim that we're tuning into something real. If we're an arbitrary calendar, then there's nothing real about it. So how can we access spiritual forces? That's a reality. It's because our calendar is so real that we can access them. In a year that has 13 months, the last 2 months are both called Adar. When do we celebrate Purim? There's a whole discussion in the Gemara. Says the Gemara, it's a Mishnah, and the Gemara explains. Why do we keep it in the second Adar?
It needs to be close to Pesach.
To be close to Pesach. Because they are both Geula, they are both forms of redemption. which means that Purim and Pesach are related. They are so different. They are so different.
Yeah, wine and both.
First night. I don't know, if you got the right kind of wine and drink enough of it, you get more drunk on Pesach than on Purim. They're both redemption, forms of redemption. So in order to fully appreciate Purim, I'm going to have to turn things around, and we're going to discuss Pesach before Purim. Remember, Pesach is the Torah commandment, Purim is rabbinical. We're over time. Okay, so tomorrow we're starting with Pesach. And then we'll come back to that.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you.